All right, good afternoon. I hope that all is well. 2:31. The day has flown by. It's really hot outside, but it's really beautiful outside. I went out there for a hot second to the grocery store, and I don't know, just thinking about just going on out there and enjoying the day. It feels like an extra day to me. Like it yesterday felt like Sunday, probably because the holiday was on Friday, you know. And so yesterday felt like Sunday to me, and today just feels like an extra day, before the work week begins. So anyway, I find that the internet is a very useful tool in many ways, especially us. Like I'm Generation X, so I came, when this stuff kind of hit the fan for the general population, because I'm sure it's been around much longer than it's been in our hands, but for the general population, um, to understand once something is done and put in the hands of the general population, it means it's already been around for God knows how long, for a long time. Okay, but not for everyone. So I've learned a lot. Uh, like I said, when I was in my lifetime, it didn't come around till I believe I was in my late 20s or something like that. And then with the apps and everything, and so much information has been shared through this worldwide web, this connection, which, is an awesome thing here. I mean, well, obviously it has its downsides, but what doesn't? That's the yin and the yang. Okay, the pendulum swinging both ways. It's going to be positives and negatives to everything. It's just how our reality in this time and space works, and it's supposed to be. It's really good for, I think, for a time period, this time period, like when they talk about, like I've talked about, and talking about the end times. I'm hearing eschatology. Eschatology. Well, I don't want to look at the. Let me see. Eschatology is the study of last things, or like the last days that you hear about in various religions. Okay, that we talked about. You probably more familiar with it with, excuse me, Judeo-Christianity. Okay, Islam. Um, I'm not quite sure. I said Judeo-Christianity, but not Judaism. I don't know if Judaism would fall under this category. Okay, but in Judeo-Christianity, Islam, you're probably more familiar with it in those religions. Eschatology is the study of last things, or what? The end times, including events like the second coming of Christ, judgment, heaven, and hell. Okay. It also encompasses the study of the individual's afterlife and the ultimate destiny of humanity and the world. Essentially, eschatology delves into what the Bible teaches about the future, both for individuals and for the world as a whole. It explores such topics as we talk about individual eschatology, what happens after death. This includes concepts of heaven, hell, and the intermediate state, and general eschatology, which are the events surrounding the end of the world, including, once again, the second coming of Christ, the resurrection, and the establishment of a new heaven and earth. It's not just about understanding future events, but also cultivating hope and understanding God's plan for humanity's ultimate destiny. It is a field of study that has implications for how Christians live their lives in the present based on their understanding of the future. You know, I know that eschatology is not just something that you find in Christianity. Okay, but anyway, anyway, I don't even want to say that religion has taken over so much. No, it's just that in the Western world, that's what we are more familiar with, though it has kind of permeated the earth at this point in time and just ripped people's cultures and faith to shreds. Okay. And I hate to say the religion itself, but more so those people who took those religions, that particular religion, and other places to and demon, which changed their culture. I talked about this before, and demonized those people. Not the people necessarily, but their, and bitch, you can back the fuck up. I'm so sick of you. BreaunaJewellBellamy, Maria Gonorrhea Gaviria Escobar, whatever the fuck you're calling yourself. Okay. But anyway, taking it to, and it has been purposely done to, destroy people's cultures, ways of life, ways of being, so on and so forth. This really leads to that one world order. That shit is not new. Okay. I remember, once again, like I was 12 years old, there was this book, I told you about the Christian bookstore that I used to go to with the lady who raised me. And there was a book, I had two of them. One of them was called New World Order, okay, and the other one was 666. Okay. And they were really good books, really good. They were talking about the historical and political things that were going on in the world, okay, that were leading to talking about the last days, and that were leading to these various time periods. I remember I was like 12, okay, so I was born in 72, so this was like 1984, and I'm reading this book. The book, come to find out, was the publication, the community that were behind the publication of the book was the Seventh-day Adventists, I believe. Yeah, Seventh-day Adventists. Because as you get to the end of the book, then they brought home their agenda, which was basically that, you had to go to church on the seventh day, which would be Saturday, okay, not Sunday. Okay, I'm sure there's a whole lot more to it than that. But anyway, but nevertheless, it did not take away from what the truths that were spelled out in the books. Okay, but I was 12 reading that stuff. You understand what I'm saying? It was so good. When I got a little older, I took it to my pastor, because I held on to those books for a long time, and we talked about it. But anyway, so in these quote unquote last days, I feel as though with the advent of the internet in this time period that people are calling the last days now, and understanding those last days, the end of an age, not necessarily the end of the world, okay, or the end of this 3D time and space, or I'll just say this, the material realm, okay. But it has the internet being open to the general public at the time that it has become open to the general public, I think is a great thing, because there was so much information, confirmation here, there was so much information that people were able to share on the World Wide Web that some people may not have ever been able to know, may have never come into the knowledge of certain things, okay, if we were just still kept, isolated from one another on that global scale. So the internet opened that up, for us, for information to be shared on a global scale. Pertinent information. Has been able to help, like somebody maybe in, I don't know, Korea would have some information that someone in, I don't know, no name Idaho, for example, okay, and I just said no name because I can't think of no cities in Idaho, okay, Boise, let's say that, Idaho, for example, or maybe even a very small town or something like that in the States may have need of, but there would be nothing right around them that could give them that information that they seek, or maybe they wouldn't have the resources that they would need to travel, or to even know where to begin. You understand what I'm saying? To find what it is that they're looking for. And sometimes you don't know exactly what it is that you're looking for until it is placed right in front of you. So that is an excellent thing about the internet, especially during these times as we are moving from one age into another, or like what they would call last days. The last days of one age moving into another age. Or even if we have moved into, the astrologers, they know that. I'm not an astrologer, okay? At the beginning stages, if we are in a new age already, of a new age, okay? And people talk about ascending and so on and so forth. That is still, even that information, okay, will be valuable and pertinent to someone who, may have gone through that process, and they're going through that process, yet there are people around them who it just seems like either something's wrong or they're stuck somewhere, and here this person is like, I don't understand what's happening around me. But yet here we have the internet for people to share this very pertinent information, and they can see it and know it. This is what is happening around me, as opposed to a time period where the change had not hadn't taken place yet, or we're still in a stage where it didn't seem as relevant. And with change, change is, what do they say about change? Change is the only constant. With change, there is what am I saying here? Uncomfortability. You know how they say, come out your comfort zone, okay? When you're changing, when you're growing, and you're going to change, it's inevitable. Things are going to change, it's inevitable. We see change before us daily. Okay. Sometimes you don't notice it from day to day. I went over that when I did my religious study series, and we can do it again. You may not see it immediately, but then gradually, over time, more so over time, you will see the change. You can look at yourself in the mirror every day from the age of, 2 years old, and here you are like 20, 60, or however old you are, and you didn't see it daily. You just saw it over a period of time. Okay. One thing that I think is very valuable for us as we are living in change and going through change is a lot of the information. Like I started reading tarot. I'm still going to do my tarot readings for people who are wondering, okay? I'm still going to do them. I haven't divorced myself from doing those, okay? I was thinking about it yesterday. Okay, let me do these readings for July. I ain't even finished all the zodiac signs for June. Okay, but we'll just start over for July. Okay, but anyway, um, I learned a lot in the tarot community. Okay, positive, negative, whatever. Okay. I learned a lot. A lot of readers, whether knowingly or unknowingly, have taught me a lot. A lot of there are readers on this platform who have, and I'm not saying personally, I haven't talked to them personally. Damn sure not you, lying ass, BreaunaJewellBellamy, Maria Gonorrhea, Gaviria, Escobar, whatever the fuck you call yourself. You lying whore. You've done nothing but be a liar. But anyway, there are readers on this platform who have opened my eyes. You know, let me just say this. Okay, we can talk about people copying off, off of people's. It ain't just in tarot land. Shit is everywhere. I mean, that has always been, and it probably always gonna be. People gonna always do that shit. Okay, but we can talk about that. People copying off people taking their talking points, blah blah blah. Okay, that's just something that's gonna happen. That's something that people are going to do. Okay. But you also have, and when I say that, I mean more so in a space of with ill intent. Okay. Not the sharing of ideas. Human being, that's how you learn. Each one teach one. Okay, that's basic. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. And people who want to make fun of people who are repetitive, motherfuckers, that is how you learn and grow in life. That's how you do. You Vishinata, repeat. You do the same shit over and over and over. I talked about this already. Just from walking, you get in the car, you just do the same shit all the time. That's this space. For example, one summer, I helped with summer school at one of the middle schools. I worked with children that were going into the 8th grade. Unfortunately, the district did not give us any tools to work with. They didn't give us not one fucking single solitary thing. Nothing. So there were 4 of us. We had 2 teachers for reading, English, and 2 for math. Me and another lady did math. You taught math. She was not employed with the district, but she was employed there for summer school. So me and her had to find lessons on the internet to teach math. I was working with children who were going to the 8th grade who did not know their multiplication tables. I didn't understand. I'm like, hell, if you don't know your multiplication tables at this point, you're going to have a hard time being successful with math as you continue on. I mean, that's the one thing you damn sure better know is your multiplication tables. You know, they had those sheets that they would give elementary school students when they're first learning their multiplication. Now, when I was in elementary school so long, we didn't have that. We didn't have those sheets. We didn't have no cheat sheets. We had I don't remember what grade I started learning my multiplication tables. I don't know, maybe the 4th, 5th grade or something like that. I noticed that in some lessons that we were taught maybe later, now that some of those lessons are taught much earlier. I mean, I was working with a kindergarten class one time. We were doing math and they were talking about equations. And I'm like, kindergartners even knowing the word equation, but anyway. Hell, I don't think I heard that word until I was in 7th grade, okay? But anyway. And it's like, well, multiplication is just fast addition. Division is just fast subtraction. Okay. The symbols, if you pay attention, look, they're the same exact symbols. Okay, maybe turned on its side, dots added. So they couldn't really, some of them couldn't do the math because they didn't know the base, the basic, the build. One of the building blocks was multiplication without the cheat sheet. And even still, because they missed that, for whatever reason, they missed it, they weren't able, they missed the process of being able to problem solve, the reasoning abilities to solve this problem at this stage. Some of them, they missed it. Some of them were having a very difficult, they could not process just the problem solving aspect because it was missed. For whatever reason, I'm not blaming the district, I'm not blaming the parents, I don't know. It was not, they didn't have it at the stage they were supposed to have it. Okay. So I said, well, like when I was in school, there were no cheat sheets. There was time to learn your multiplication tables. How? Memory. Flashcards, memorize it. And then we were tested, from 0 all the way through 12. Okay, they didn't go past 12, the number 12. For multiplication, we had to know, boom, 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 boom. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. 9 times 9 is 81. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Not you get an opportunity to look at your finger. No, you have to know it. And count it on your fingers and your toes and cheat sheets. No, you have to absolutely know it. Which it goes into, percentages and so on and so forth. Even when you do division and you get into algebra and geometry, etc., etc., you got to know, if nothing else, your multiplication tables. You don't have time to 4 times 3 is 12. Let me get 4 fours. 4 plus 4 is 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 4. No, you understand what I'm saying? So I said, I was talking to the lady I was working with. I said, why don't we just give them an incentive to memorize for the first few weeks their multiplication table, so we can use these last few weeks, to do their to learn the formulas and whatnot, for the next levels of math. And she was like, well, I don't think that's a good idea. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I don't think memorization is a good idea. And I said, why? You know what I'm saying? And she said, it's not best practice. I said, okay, here we go with something she's learned in a book from school. And I said, why? Why isn't it best practice? And she said, well, because, she really didn't have a reason, but I kept pushing why. Why are you saying that? Because I want to understand. What am I missing here? Because they don't know it. And she said, well, she finally said, well, because she said, well, I don't know my multiplication tables and we didn't have to memorize it. I said, did you hear what you just said? Exactly. Because she was much younger than me. I said, but my generation, we all know our multiplication tables. We'll never forget it. You learn how to drive. It's basically information that's kind of downloaded into you, so that no matter what, if you learn how to drive and you drive for 2 years, a period of time, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years go by, you don't drive, then you get back in that motherfucker, boom. It's just there. You just know it. You have memorized it. You learn how to walk one foot in front of the other. You memorize it. It's downloaded into you. You memorize it, and boom, no matter what, you know how to do it. Unless the muscles atrophy or something like that, you in a situation where the muscles atrophy, and then you have to learn all over again. But the mind knows what to do. It's just now the muscles have atrophied, so the muscles have to be exercised back into one foot in front of the other. Like people who work out, and they say, you may not work out for a long time. Like people who lift weights, for example. You may not work out for a long time. Say something happened, you stop for a few years or whatever, and you go back to, what do they say? Muscle memory. The muscle just, boom. The body has memorized. So I said, okay, I'm just here helping. I will teach them the best way that I can. And it was very difficult. I remember there was one girl, she has a very difficult, she started crying. And I know that. I said, I know exactly how you feel. I've been in that seat where it was so hard, whatever it was so challenging for me that it brought me to tears because I could not do it. Or I felt like I couldn't do it. Or I was being pushed, stretched. Okay. So things that are uncomfortable, when you change and you grow, it is uncomfortable because you're being stretched out of what your comfort zone. So as I was saying, so for me, came up in a time we had no internet. Things that were of a spiritual nature, like my dad was a very spiritual person, and some of the things that I've heard in the spiritual community, I would say, "Oh, my dad taught me that." I remember my dad was talking about that, but my dad lived in a whole another part of the world. So when I was able to spend time with him, more so on a regular basis, because I hadn't been able to be with him on a regular basis. When I was like in my early, what was I, maybe mid-20s. I went to graduate school in Atlanta, and he was living in Stone Mountain. So I would go hang out with him and talk to him a lot. And some of the things he would share with me, spiritual talks and whatnot. I'm like, oh, this is what he was teaching me. This is what he was talking about. But it was like, I said, where do you go? Where do you just read this stuff, but I was in the church at the time, so that's where my mind was focused. But he was like, no, I have a group that I meet with. And I said, but you've been on this for years. He said, I have. I said, where did you learn? He said, I've always, there's, so spiritual groups, small groups of people. Okay. And then, here with the advent of the internet and people sharing things and more people getting a hold of, these spiritual teachings. So for me, there were things that I would experience, but I didn't have a name for. Like I made a post yesterday. I just titled the video 1212, not because that was the name of the video. I just put 1212 there because as I was clicking the live to do it, setting it up, it was 1212. So that's why I put that there, 1212. But one of the young women commented about, I was talking about sexuality, and she was talking about people that are asexual and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, it's so interesting how now they can do research, okay, and talk to people and whatnot and give names to things that people have always felt but didn't have a name for. Didn't know that there would. Why would there be a name for it? It's just how I feel. You understand what I'm saying? And then, but the good thing is, that I find interesting and the positive aspect is that, oh, there are others in the world, okay, because you're never just you. It's never just you're the only person that's not how it works. We are all connected. So, like I was saying, I have learned a lot from many tarot readers on this platform. And I could say, oh, I experienced that. And I have been ever since I started. This is not my first channel. I had my first channel. When did I start that channel? 2015, I believe. Or was it 16 or 2017? Something like that. I think 2017. 16 or 17. So I would listen to them and I said, oh, that's what that was called. That's what I felt. Like I was talking about the dream infiltration shit. I've been experiencing that shit since I was a teenager. I did not know that. I remember the reader who, the first time I heard she was talking about that, I said, well, that's what the fuck that was. The way she described it. Now, so that's what I was experiencing. I didn't have a name for it. And once again, I grew up in the church, but we didn't have the internet here. We didn't have a World Wide Web. We didn't have, where we could sit here and listen to others who, whether they know it or not, are teaching, sharing what they know. And sometimes, you can look at things, okay, you might see some stuff online or somebody that people say, oh, that person ain't no good, they ain't right, this, that, and the other, okay. But they're still sharing information. And there might be people like, well, I didn't know that person was doing that, this, that, and other. I sure did learn a lot from that person. Just like you can go anywhere, any teacher, any a spiritual leader for that matter, and learn from them, even though they might have a hellacious life. Okay, and just kicking up hell everywhere they go, and still learn a lot from them. You bitch, no, you didn't. You ain't taught shit. Gonorrhea Escobar Gaviria. Except stay away from that bitch. She's a fucking nut. And a thief. And a liar. And a fraud. Anyway. BreaunaJewellBellamy. So one thing that I learned. Now, I remember the first time I came across Bobby Hemming. I had studied with the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. Okay, Ben Ami. He was the founder, not the one where you see the men on the streets and whatnot, with, kind of preaching and yelling at people. Not that community. I was in that community, the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem community here. I had come across that community for the first time when I lived in D.C. when I went to Howard. They had the Soul Vegetarian, so they had opened up a Soul Vegetarian on Georgia Ave, right across the street from Howard University. And I was eating a lot of vegan food at that time. And a friend of mine, she ate a lot of vegan food too. She told me about it, and I went over there. And that's when I first came across them. And then I came across them again when I lived in Atlanta. They had a Soul Vegetarian there. They had a whole complex in Atlanta. And then here in Cleveland, they're not really active in Cleveland anymore. Okay. I do run into some people here and there. Well, it's been a lot of years. Only one lady sister that I run into on a regular basis. But that's because I see her in the school. She's a teacher. But anyway, I'm trying to think of what I was saying, how I moved off into that. I can't remember. It'll come back to me. But nevertheless, so, I learned a lot of things that I had experienced in my life but didn't have terminology for it. And not only did I not have terminology for it, I didn't know there was terminology for it. I didn't have terminology for it, but I also didn't know that some of it was, I'm hearing the conjuring or the black magic to stop and stall a person. Okay, putting in jars and all type of shit. Though in my life I knew something was off, I knew something wasn't right. Okay, I did learn about, of course, some black magic. Of course, when I got older, there was a class at Howard called Magic, Witchcraft, and Healing. It was a class that was, it was one of those classes that people would take to get, those classes that you have to take. It's just to make you, basically to make you a well-rounded person while you're studying your major. Okay, but one of those classes, what were they called? I can't remember. Electives. Okay, so a lot of people took that class. It was a real interesting class. Then I had a friend back then who was from New Orleans, and I used to tell her about what I was learning in class, and she was telling me that she had an aunt who was a practitioner. And she was telling me, she would share with me what her aunt taught her and everything. I had no idea that things were being done to me until maybe I was like in my 30s. Now, I didn't get on this motherfucker until I was in my 40s, my late 40s. But then when I was in my 30s, I was like, somebody done did something to me. I don't know what it is. I can't imagine who. Well, I had one person in mind. Okay. But I couldn't figure it out. I didn't see it. Okay. And I might have been getting signs. Okay. Through various means. But I was not catching a hold of it. Like I hear some readers say, pay attention to the signs and synchronicities. Okay. I did the egg cleansing. I was just like, what is this? This is not my life. Something has happened. Somebody done did some shit to me. Ooh, okay. So when I started doing tarot, and I had wanted to do tarot for a long time. I first had my first tarot reading. I probably was like about 19 or 20 years old. Okay. So I was familiar with it. I wanted to do it for years. I wanted to do it full time. Like I talked about this before, but it seemed to me like it was probably very complex, and I would never be able to get all the information. I would never be able to get it. I'd never be able to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a temple that I used to go to here, and the sister that was over the temple. She had given me a deck. I think I won it in one of the what would we have services one Sunday. I got a deck of oracle cards, but there was a bookstore here called Delphic Bookstore. It's closed. Me and one of my clients, we were talking about it yesterday, and he had a lot of things like that, and then metaphysical things and tarot cards, a lot of spiritual, things in the store. And I had got a singing bowl from there. I got a huge moonstone ring. It's gone. It broke. Rainbow moonstone. It's beautiful. Um, I bought a deck of tarot cards there. I didn't know anything about what kind of buy, nothing like that. It was just a deck of Egyptian tarot cards. So I would try to read them, and I would follow the instructions, and I would read how to do it, what the book said, and do a spread and read whatever the book said that the card meant or whatever. But I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Eventually, I got rid of those cards. I cannot remember why. I think I wasn't doing my Christian thing, so that wasn't it. I had long, got tired of that. Okay, but I don't remember why I discarded the cards. But I do remember thinking that I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And now that I do tarot, I'm looking back like I knew exactly what I was doing. It just was a matter of time and patience. Okay. So anyway, so eventually I got another deck over the years. I didn't even know there was tarot on YouTube. Someone shared it with me. I saw a reader, okay, spiritual OG. I thought she was the only person. Somebody sent me a link to her channel. I was like, oh, somebody does tarot on YouTube? I didn't know. So I thought she was the only person. Okay, so I kept watching her, and then the more I watched her, then of course, you know how the algorithm does. Then I started seeing all these readers, and I was like, wait a minute, it's a whole this is a whole sector here on YouTube. And I used to be on YouTube all the time. Okay. But nevertheless. So that's what I was talking about when I first came across Bobby Hemmett. So I had left the community, but there was another sister who had left the community, and she contacted me one night and she said, Bobby Hemmett is here. And I was like, well, who's that? So I went to go see him. Make a long story short, I went to go see him. And at the time, I was like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I really like it. You know what I'm saying? I really like it. It just felt so good to be in that environment. It was at a place, it was a church that was specifically, it was African American, something or other church. Okay, it wasn't a Christian church, but it was there. And boy, we was there all night long. Okay, I can't remember. I don't know when he started. You know how he started at 3 and don't stop talking till after 11. Okay, and I was just eating it up. I was just like, wow, I love this. So then she shared some more people with me, and then I would watch them on YouTube, and then I would come across more people like Delbert Blair and Dr. Jewel Pookrum, so on and so forth. And then I would just, watch that all the time. I was even listening to Sarah Sutton Seti back then. Okay, so I know some of y'all familiar with them. But anyway, so I became familiar with the teaching. One thing that he said, I learned this before I got on YouTube, the first time. And I feel like I have to say that because there are other people here with ill intention who seem to think that because they saw you for the first time on YouTube, that you didn't know shit. That you was after their quote unquote occult knowledge. And just allowing you to say all kind of things and get together in their chats and talk about you like you're stupid and you don't know nothing because they've never seen it before. And because you don't get on talking a whole lot of slanderous shit and putting people down, you just on here just doing your readings, which I was. It's a goddamn shame. But that's the extent of some, I'm not saying all, of some people's thinking. So nevertheless, and bitch, you can sit up here and watch me all you fucking want and take notes till the cows come home. And then go over on your Helltown channel and repeat it. Like that post you made, talking about your intuition. You, bitch, please. If your intuition have told you to make such an ass of yourself the way that you have, and make such a fool of yourself the way that you have, and you think that you're fooling people, GonorrheaMariaEscobarGaviria, BreaunaJewellBellamy, then you're a lot more stupid than one could ever imagine. Because you sit over here. Now you're gone. You sit over here and you listen to my talking points. And then go put it on your stank ass, disgusting ass, whoremouth ass page or channel. Listen to my intuition that has helped me, saved my life. Big names have been after me. Nobody gives a fuck about you because you don't give a fuck about you. And all the wonderful things that happened to me, including my beautiful children that you made a video about and said that you don't give a fuck about them. You got other shit to do. Horrenda. You dumbass. Anyway, the war has begun. Bitch, shut up. Fucking freak. Anyway, so I've learned a lot from and whoever I learned it from. You know, I don't care. You know, I've learned, and I show gratitude. Thank you for teaching me, showing me, whether you knew you were doing it or not. And I'm not saying I'm the center of your world. Some of y'all don't even know who the fuck I am. You may not even hear what I'm saying. May not even know I have a channel. Okay, but showing me that the things that I had been experiencing in my life, long before a fucking YouTube, I mean long before the shit even existed, that, oh, that is what that was. This was being held from me, from many of us. I'm not just saying like me, like I'm the only person on earth. No, from many of us. So I say that the internet is a wonderful thing, regardless of, like I said, I don't know every reader's story, life, whatever. That's why sometimes, you know, you do get pissed when people copy off you and shit, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but what if some of the information that I learned from a reader, they copied off of somebody, and I didn't even know who they copied off of, but I learned it from that person. You know what I mean? I still think it's, but I when there's ill intent behind it, and only that person knows their intention. That person ain't God. You know what I'm saying? And their higher being and whatnot. So I say thank you. I'm saying thank you, and I'm expressing gratitude, because even you all who would teach have learned from others. See, don't nobody come out the womb just knowing. We learn. We learn by watching. We learn by touching. We learn by tasting. We learn by listening. We learn by reading. We learn, and we learn these things from others. Ain't no one person got it all for everybody. That's just dumb to even think that. Okay, you may not even teach, even if you have a channel. You may not even reach a piece of a percentage of the amount of people that are walking this earth. But one thing, I'm saying all that to get to, that I remember him saying how, now this was before I even knew there was a YouTube terror or whatever. You could be feeling a particular way and it not be your energy at all. You can feel, say, now I think we have to be careful, because sometimes some things we feel is just part of being human. It may not be anybody else's stuff. Because I think a lot of times I just feel like, okay, sometimes it's just how you feel. That's like when I was in church, they wanted to just, okay, I think, okay, everything is spiritual to an extent. I hope this makes sense, but, just every single thing. Like I knew this lady when I was in the church where no matter what she said, if you say, okay, you have a good evening, she would say, okay, I will, Lord willing, nothing happen. I mean, all for everything. But you do find that in I'm looking it up. Well, okay, you find that in Islam as well. We would kind of laugh, be kind of, Lord, wouldn't nothing happen. She would say it. I don't care what it was. She always said that. And that's when that people will criticize the church. I mean, God, you can't, spiritualize everything. But you do find that in Islam when they say, mashallah. Okay? Which means God has willed it, or what God has willed. In other words, kind of like what she say, Lord, will and nothing happen if it's God's will. So when I heard him say this, I said, yeah, because I had heard that before. I don't know if I heard it when I was with the Hebrews or what. Like, you can feel a certain way. You're just going along, just feeling good and happy. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, just for no reason at all, you just feel like shit. Depressed, sad, whatever the case may be. And you're like, where did this come from? See, this is what I mean, like, without, just one example, very minor example, but an example nonetheless. Without, we didn't have the internet. Like I said, this didn't come along I was in my late 20s, full-fledged adult. YouTube, all this shit, 30s. Okay. There was no one there to share that kind of information for people to understand that on a broad scale. People might have questioned, well, I was feeling fine. All of a sudden, I just feel real blue and sad. Why? I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I feel that way. Take some time to think everything in my life is going well. Now, there might have been some spiritual people who are spiritualists of some sort who could say, girl, that ain't nothing but Annie throwing that feeling over at you because she don't like you. She's jealous of you. But in general, and especially if you were coming up in a time period like I was, I call the era that I lived in, I call our parents the Jeffersons era. They finally got their piece of the pie, after the civil rights movement and whatnot. So a lot of things, and my generation, we were like in those earlier stages, not, well, I'll just say earlier stages. Let me be sure, of integration. (1954). Let me see. Integration, specifically in the context of public schools, gained significant momentum after the 1954 this Brown versus Board of Education. Okay, so it reached a peak. It says particularly in the South in the late 60s to the early 70s. Okay, as schools were compelled to desegregate due to legal challenges and federal pressure. Late 60s, early 70s, it says particularly in the South, but not just in the South. I was born in 72, early 70s. Okay, so we're talking about, then that's when you began to see changes taking place, especially in, the homes of black Americans. Okay, I'm not going to say African Americans. Okay, I'm going to say black Americans. Okay, and with that, some I feel as though, because a lot of people who do remember integration and remember when things became integrated, and after the civil rights movement, they used to feel that they felt that then, and I've talked to enough people, older people, who said that they felt that the integration is kind of what began the moral decline and the spiritual decline of the black community. Okay. That's when you began to see, and I added the spiritual aspect as well, because some of the things that we practiced, even if we were in the church, quote unquote, there was still things that we practiced that were from a spiritual perspective, that were a part of our history. Okay, that um, you know, for lack of a better word, helped us to make it through. And it was just a part of our culture. These things that were stripped from us, okay, but not 1,000% completely. But then with integration, then these things you began to see these things on a decline, and you began to hear things like, okay, what mama used to do and grandmama used to do, we don't need to do that no more, you don't need to do that. Because then now you're taking on, because you're integrated in with another, the larger culture, and one that seems to be oppressing your culture, taking on the cultural way and state of mind. Okay, I ain't saying nothing that you can't find written in books and on videos by people, actual historians who've done the work. Okay, but I'm speaking from a perspective of a person who was living during that time period. Okay, and you began to see the decline here of a community, to the point now it's like niggas and flies. Okay. So anyway, back to what I was saying. And then not being knowledgeable. My people perish for lack of knowledge. People are going to perish for lack of knowledge. Not knowing who they are, not knowing where they come from. Okay. Even with the little bit of information that we did have. It's less and less now, because now we're being told that that's not necessary anymore. Here, study our ways. Study our ways of being while we really still yours. Study our ways of being. Look at our studies that say A, B, C, and D, and blah, 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 that don't speak to your culture at all, but now we are integrated, okay, and happily so. We want to be accepted too, that type of attitude, okay. So there would have been, even with not necessarily, without the internet, there still would have been spiritualists who could say that is someone else's energy they are projecting off on you. But then when you're living through a time period where people are saying, oh, we don't need that anymore, that ain't what that is, just go on and pray that off. Girl, ain't nothing wrong with you, you fine. You just don't feel good right now. That's just your blood sugar acting up, etc., etc., etc. Which some of those things could be the case. But it also could be the case of the spiritualist who is now no longer valued, telling you that is someone projecting their energy off on you. Projection has multiple meanings. In psychology, it refers to the process of attributing one's own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or motivations to others. It's a defense mechanism where someone unconsciously, they could do it unconsciously now, okay, projects their own unwanted traits or emotions onto someone else. For example, someone who is feeling insecure might accuse others of being arrogant. Okay, then it talks about math and general usage. Okay, but I was referring to the area of psychology here, okay? And you find this here talked about in the spiritual community. Same thing. In a spiritual context, projection often refers to the psychological process where individuals attribute their own thoughts, feelings, or characteristics to others, sometimes without conscious awareness. This can manifest as misinterpreting others' actions or intentions based on one's own inner state. Okay. Or being fucking paranoid. Okay. Which is real. Okay. And that's not to be put down, all right? It can also relate to the concept of astral projection, where consciousness is believed to separate from. Okay, I ain't talking about that though. Okay, but it does say that it is a defense mechanism. Okay, a person who is self-critical may project this onto others, believing they are also being judged. For example, like when I did the talk, the video I titled 1212, and I did the talk the other day about sexuality. And I meant to say it in the video, but I forgot. When I was in seminary, okay, I went to seminary once again, Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta. In general, okay, the Christian church speaks against homosexuality. So even though it's rampant in the churches, okay, hell, some of the best gospel music was written by people who were homosexual. They may not have said it, they may not have been able to say it, but goddamn, people could sit back there and know. And it was and they were the ones who would usher in through their music, through the music, usher in, okay, the power or the spirit of God, okay, through music. That's a whole nother video, the power of music. Okay, but nevertheless, okay. So was it my senior year or what? My freshman year? I think it was either my junior or my senior year. I can't remember which class it was, but the professor was telling us about two churches in the city that were run by the pastors were of the LGBT community. We didn't use that terminology back then, okay? So don't nobody be upset. And he was having them come, okay, to class to talk to us about his church. So the one guy came, he was very, very flashy, very flamboyant, okay? He was probably maybe like in his early 30s or something, okay, from what I can remember. It did not end well, okay, because people was asking all kind of questions. It didn't end well, okay. I remember him storming up out of there, okay. He had someone with him, okay. But anyway, one thing that they used to tell us in seminary, when you find, that was just a story that doesn't necessarily relate to what I'm saying, but when you find, seminary is not Bible college. Okay, there ain't nothing about seminary that's necessarily going to give you any kind of confirmation about what you learn in Sunday school or in church. It's not. Matter of fact, you're going to leave up out of there and go back to your church and be sitting there like, what is this? Okay, because now I can see. Okay, but anyway, they were saying how when you find those pastors who are constantly talking about homosexuality all the daggum time, just beating it down. It don't have nothing to do with discernment, but just they manage to throw it in there some way, beating it down. That is probably an issue that person is dealing with. Projection. Okay. It also says someone with anger issues might perceive others as constantly angry or aggressive. A person struggling with feelings of shame might project those feelings onto others, leading to negative perceptions of them. Like I said, with that silly ass email GonorrheaMariaEscobarGaviria sent me, the feelings of shame around her sexuality. The impact. Projection can distort perceptions of reality. Definitely. And that's when people talk about doing your shadow work and all of that kind of stuff. If you do not do it, it can distort your own perception of reality. Because you're not dealing with, like I said, when I was growing up, you didn't hear any kind of terminology about doing shadow work. You might have heard it in spiritual communities. I come from the time period where it was more, things were more on a religious base. Not spiritual, religious. You didn't hear that terminology. But what you did hear was people say, you need to look at yourself. You need to deal with yourself. In other words, look at the totality of you. Even, the shadow aspect, the dark aspect. Look, see, know thyself. In other words, projection can distort perceptions of reality. And so because you are not doing that, like it says, it hinders healthy relationships and blocks personal growth. Here, that is the impact of projection. I don't know. I don't understand why, though, it's such a difficult thing. It seems like we live in a period of time where people are just having a hard, you hear this word talking about taking accountability and taking responsibility, but people are having, it seems like, a hard time doing that. A motherfucker will step on your fucking toe, and you see them step, you see who it is, and you say, hey, you stepped on my toe. Person just walk off like they did nothing. And no, I didn't. Well, your toe was in the way. What? And you just won't even say, excuse me. What the fuck is wrong with your motherfucking ass? Like, I had a situation one time. I don't get that. I don't, when I was younger, did not see these types of things. If somebody stepped on your fucking toe, even if they felt you was in the way, they still would say, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, excuse me. And they might even follow it up with a, well, you was kind of in my way. But generally, no. So when I lived in my grandmother's house, I had a fire in my kitchen. You know, I had the insurance and whatnot, and it took them like about, I don't know, about close to 6 months to, you know, get everything together. So I couldn't cook in the kitchen. I mean, I had to take everything. For those of you who are familiar, okay, had these type of situations, it was the first time for me. They had to get rid of everything. Everything. So it didn't matter if it was sealed, closed, in a can. It didn't matter. Everything was trashed. And I had some good shit. You understand what I'm saying? I had a top of the line juicer. I had the Vitamix, okay, blender, which was, you know, that's top of the line blender. I had a top of the line food processor. I was like, well, can't I just wash it? No, it had to go because that smoke can get inside, you know, of the little air on the inside, and you won't even know it and see it. Okay, all right. So they had, yeah, okay, everything go, which was okay, which was good, because my kitchen needed to be redone anyway. Okay, and it was completely redone. I had wanted the stainless steel refrigerator. I got all that shit. Okay, but anyway, so all things work together for good. Okay, to them that love the Lord. Okay, so anyway, so I had to eat out, you know, and with the insurance, they were giving me money every week, you know, to eat out. So there was this restaurant that I would go to up the street from where I live. Ooh, the food was so fucking good. She was only open in the morning, and I think she closed at like 2. Her food was slam, okay? And I went one time, and I was going all the time. So they, you know, got to know me. I got to know them. We'd be talking and whatnot, you know, trust level was there. There was a young lady there who made a mistake. She rang me up. I didn't even notice it until I got home. The owner called me. She rang it up and rang my card up for like, I think it was like $20 something I spent, but she did $2,000. So the owner called me. I grabbed the receipt. I was like, oh shit. She was like, I'm so sorry that this happened, you know. And I said, and you know, we're gonna fix it right away. Blah blah blah. I said, okay. So, but you know how it goes. It takes a couple of days. It's not. They can't do it just like bam, right then and there. So I was still going periodically for my food. I wasn't mad. I was like, well, it's just a mistake, you know. But the young lady who did it, every time I walked in there, she had an attitude with me. Now, she didn't have an attitude with me before that point. She had an attitude with me. I said, okay, the first time, you know, I go in, you know, hey, how you doing? I speak to everybody. You know, all of that. I'm like, okay. I didn't even see it. The owner saw it and called me. But okay. I'll go in again. Good food. I couldn't cook at home. Eating out. Same thing. The third time she did it, I think the guy, I think he was the owner's, I don't know if he was her husband or his or her boyfriend. I'm not sure. But anyway, I told him, I said, I talked to you, man, outside. He said, sure. I was beyond pissed at that point. I'm not a fighter, but I wanted to pull her motherfucking ass over the counter like, bitch, what the fuck? You're not going to have an attitude. You made a mistake. You made a mistake. It's just a mistake. It's nothing for you to be upset about. It's not. You're upset about you think that I'm angry with you because of the mistake that you made. You probably think that I said something to the owner about you negatively and I didn't, because you made a mistake. You probably think that I want to try to get you fired, or that I want to try to find you outside one day and beat you down because you made a mistake. No. Why? Because you made a mistake. I do not have an issue with you. You made a mistake. But instead of you owning the mistake, you're projecting your feelings really of fear because you think that I'm going to do something to you because of a mistake. So you're projecting, you turn your fear into nasty attitude and you're projecting it at me because you're afraid. So I told the owner, I talked to the guy, you know, and I told him what was going on. And he was like, I'm so sorry. I said, now the girl didn't never even said to me, I'm sorry. Sorry about what happened the other day. She apologized. I said, but it's okay because you all apologized. I said, now you didn't see me coming here every day since that situation. Yeah. I said, if I come in causing a stink and acting a goddamn fool about, he said, no, you just your regular self. Wouldn't have even known it happened. Exactly. I said, you better say something to her. I said, because if I come in here one more time and she nasty to me, and I don't go to these levels, I don't do this type of shit. I said, I'm going to put her motherfucking ass over that goddamn counter. And I mean what the fuck I said. There's no reason for her to have made a mistake and have a nasty fucking attitude to the person you made the mistake to. What is wrong with the world right now? I can't say it's everybody. But I damn sure see this shit a lot with black women. And I ain't saying all black women. But you made a mistake and you just cannot hold yourself accountable to the mistake that you made. And I'm not even doing anything to force you, to make you. I don't know what your boss said to you. I'm sure she wasn't happy about the shit. Because she's the one who owns this place. Which who knows what it could have brought on her if I did clown and act a fool. On social media and everywhere else, no. If she simply made a mistake, it's okay she made a mistake. As long as we can fix it. And we can. It's just something that can be fixed in like a day or two. It's not that big of a deal. Projection. Here. It was blocking her personal growth. Her perception of reality was distorted. It was hindering for her a healthy relationship with herself, with the owner, and with a regular client, customer. Spiritual significance. Some spiritual traditions view projection as a form of what? Self-deception. It is. You're not deceiving me. You're deceiving yourself. She was deceiving herself. Living in a world and realm that wasn't even real. I don't know what was going through her fucking head. It blocks personal growth. You continue on that path, no doors will be open to you. Energetically, or just people like, no, I want to work with her. Even possibly with the owner. Who knows that woman's connections that could have taken her to higher heights. Even if, okay, bitch, I'm making match. I don't want to be here all the time. Again, some spiritual traditions view projection as a form of self-deception, where individuals fail to take responsibility for their own inner state. That's your shit. And project it onto the external world. It can be seen as a barrier to what? Self-awareness and spiritual awakening. Yet I want to ascend. The ascension is within. It's not without. It's not without to go put on some pretty spiritual clothes and pretty spiritual makeup and nose rings and bracelets and all the spiritual. That's not it. It's within. Spiritual implications. It is often viewed as a spiritual practice that allows for exploration of higher dimensions, connection with spiritual entities, and personal growth. Let's look at that again. It is often viewed as a spiritual practice that allows for exploration of higher dimensions. Now, it ain't easy to accept responsibility when you've done some shit. First of all, it takes you out your comfort zone. But also, this what they say, that this is supposed to be the university. This is a place of, like a school, a place of learning, spiritual growth and growing. Why have we allowed the scripted shit that's not based in anything, that's come from the rulers and the other higher planes and higher forces and the spiritual wickedness and the darkness in the world, blah blah blah. To what? Why have we allowed them? Why have people allowed them to say to us, and folks have eaten it up, that you can do whatever you want to do, or you can even make mistakes, because that's what we do. That's a part of growing. Like when a child gets up to learn how to walk, they fall. Boom. They get up, ha ha ha, hee hee, take two more steps, boom, boom. Maybe hit their head, cry a little bit, woo woo woo, but there's someone to help them and assist them. You can do it, you can do it, you got it, you can do it. Why is it okay for children to make mistakes? And we teach them, but I've seen some people, I've seen some people with children, and children, I mean, it's like, that's a baby, that's a child, you got to teach them. I remember when I had my daughter, she was about 2, I don't know, 3, one of the small, real young. And we were going upstairs, the house I lived in, and she had a cup, a little sippy cup. And it fell out her hand, and she just looked at it. And juice was just flowing all over the steps, down the steps. And I was like, pick it up. And I'm thinking to myself, why won't she pick it up? She don't know to pick it up. You got to teach her. You drop the cup, now you pick it up. She is amazed at the whole process, the whole situation. She's amazed that it fell out of her fucking hand, and now she's watching the juice spill out all over the steps. You have to teach her. So I realized, you got to teach her. She don't just know. Somebody taught your motherfucking ass when you was like 2 and you did the same dumb thing. And you was amazed at the juice flowing everywhere, all over the floor. No, okay, now we got to pick it up and clean this up. So how come adults can't make mistakes and realize, oh, I just made a mistake? Or even, no matter how big it is. And because regardless, if you do some bullshit, maybe it was a mistake, but we still got to pay the consequences for it, no matter what it is. I mean, folks can pretend to the cows, but the universe don't care nothing about your pretend and your pretense. It doesn't. It's going. What you put out is what you're going to get back. Period. So you can project till the cows come home. The universe doesn't give a fuck. Your inner self doesn't give a fuck. The internet doesn't care. Nobody cares. It is often viewed as, once again, as a spiritual practice that allows for what? Exploration of higher dimensions. Okay, you can even bring it down here. Like the girl, for example, at the little restaurant that I was going to. If she allowed herself to look at herself and say, I fucked up. But see, I don't know, maybe that was the 20th time she fucked up. Maybe she had kept doing stupid shit around there and doing stuff like that. I don't know. And she was defensive. Then we say that it's a defense mechanism. She was defensive. But I wasn't a part, if she had been, say that was 20 times she fucked up. I wasn't a part of the first 19, but I am a part of the 20th time. I'm not giving you the blues. I'm just looking at, okay, she made a mistake. She ain't gonna even apologize for the mistake. Okay, but whatever. The owner did. Moving on. But now you're defensive with me. Which means you're probably defensive with the owner. Who, if you had owned up to it and said, okay, I need to really work on this shit because maybe I'm moving too fast. Maybe I'm hitting the buttons too fast. Maybe I get nervous for some reason when it's time for me to cash a person out. Look at yourself as to why you're doing what it is that you're doing. Show the owner that you're ready, that you are growing and that you're learning. And the owner could have taken her what? To an exploration of a higher dimension, even in that space being what? I'm going to make you, girl, you done come a long goddamn way. You're looking at yourself, you're fixing your problems, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to make you the senior manager. Meaning I'm going to give you, maybe a $5 or $10 hour a raise. And when I go open the other restaurant, I'm going to make a chain. And when I open one on the west side of town, you may be the one over there I'm going to have run it. Higher dimension. Not just deities and entities. I'm making more money now. I'm running the restaurant now. I'm making more money. Now I was able to get the car I wanted and move into the place I wanted because I'm doing better now. I'm going to go higher and higher and higher and higher. And one day, hell, she may even turn the restaurant over to me. And I'll be the one running this shit. And I'm going to open 2 more. The original one, the one on the west side. Then we're going to open one in Columbus because Columbus is hopping. And we might even take one down there to Cincinnati. And I'm going to run all of that shit. No, you're too busy being defensive. Connection with spiritual entities and personal growth. Once again, I'm reading now. Some traditions believe it can lead to a deeper understanding of oneself and what the universe. Involuntary versus intentional. You got astral projection. It says can occur involuntarily. Like that's something I don't do voluntary. I know I've done it in my sleep though, such as in dreams or near-death experiences. Or it can be intentionally induced through specific practices. Near-death experience. I talked about the time that I was playing with the car door and I ended up holding on to the door and being dragged down the street. Then came through without a scratch. But old ugly ass, stupid ass, gonorrhea having ass Maria wannabe EscobarGaviria over there made a whole video making fun. But now she's over there talking about how the big name people are after her to kill her. An idiot. Other spiritual interpretations. Hinduism. In Hinduism, the projection of the universe refers to the concept that beings can manifest desired experiences and objects through meditation and rituals. We hear about that. Manifesting your desires, reflecting the connection between consciousness and creation. Then you have general spiritual growth. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of self-awareness and taking responsibility for one's own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Projection can be seen as a sign of incomplete, this is interesting, self-knowledge, or a tendency to blame external factors for internal states, hindering spiritual progress. So that's what I was saying. So sometimes it might be somebody projecting their shit onto you. But then again, it just might be you and your humanity, which is okay. Because we're not going to just feel, just static 24/7, just the same way all the time. That's not normal. Then you look that up and they say, okay, look like we can diagnose this person with this mental illness. Okay. Coming awake to projections. Some spiritual teachers suggest that by becoming aware of one's projections and learning to distinguish them from objective reality, individuals can foster self-compassion, improve relationships, and accelerate their spiritual growth. And that's interesting too, becoming aware of doing it. Because sometimes you may not even be aware that you do it. Okay. Especially I feel like for people that might be empathic. I know everybody say they're empath nowadays, but especially for people that are seriously empathic, where you it may not know that that's what you are experiencing. You go into a room, especially when you're young, okay, and you can just pick up on all the shit in the room, and you don't realize that that's what's happening. Again, more people might nowadays, like I said, with the advent of the internet, people are teaching, through that. Like I said, we didn't have this when I was young. So people who might have been empaths when they were young, like, I don't know why I feel this way every time I go in there. So it's just something, I just feel strange. I feel sad every time I want to go to church. Every time I go there, I feel sad. And maybe the people are in there sad. And you're picking up that energy. But then at the same time, because you're picking it up and you don't know that you are empathic and that you are kind of absorbing the energy, you might end up putting some shit out there, projecting some shit out there yourself, just trying to escape the feeling. You understand what I'm saying? Because you don't know. I really didn't mean to get into all that, but it was good, I feel. Okay. Now there's another article, but I'm not going to go into it, but it's titled Understanding Your Projections and How to Block, and how they block your spiritual growth is what it is saying here. Okay, but I'm not going to read all of this. I just, read the part that comes through the AI when you Google. Okay. But I will say this. For you, Miss BreaunaJewellBellamy, Maria Gaviria, Escobar Gonorrhea, Stank Puss, Scruffy, Shady Pines, Mustard Puss, and you're lying fuck ass. And you're pretending like you don't be over here when you over here 24 fucking 7, bitch. Whether it's on my channel or in my house with the gnats and flies and shit. Bitch, I don't give a fuck what you feel. I don't give a fuck what you going through and then that lying ass post that you posted. You keep your motherfucking feelings of nothingness. And nobody don't love me and all of that type of shit. That's why when I was coming up, for everybody else, they used to say the best saying of all time was know thyself. Know who you are. I've been with me for 53 years. And I guess I could say, 9-10 months in utero. Bitch, you better keep your feelings of your fuck ass and your fuck self, your lonely, pitiful ass self over there. I'm so sick and tired of you. You don't have no attachment to me. Me and you don't have no spiritual soul tie about none of that shit. Not now, not ever. And even in the past, none. So you stay your rank, low down, nobody, nothing having ass away from me and your fuck feelings about your lonely ass, pitiful ass self. It's so funny how somebody can be a dog something mulatto, but you have Dorothy Dandridge and half Escobar, no half Gaviria, no Colombian, no Mexican, no this, no that, no Louisiana Creole, no Cleveland nigga. Sound like just a fucking mutt who don't know who and what the fuck she is. Which lie gonna stick? Stay your ass away from me. I don't know. Somebody, what's that, Google Meet? I don't do that shit. But somebody at 8 o'clock this morning called me to do some Google Meet through their email. And I looked up your email. It was a name that came through I've never heard of. An older person in their 70s. Now, I don't know if that was somebody using that person's information or what. I don't do no Google. Don't be good. I don't do that with nobody. With people I know, I don't use that. I don't know if you made a mistake or what. Don't bother me. If you're not somebody I talk to on a regular basis, and there's very, very, very few people who I talk to on a regular basis. You can text and say who you are. You can email. If it ain't blocked, it probably is. Oh well. And it was a 216 number. All the numbers that came up was 216. I don't know nobody with that name. Don't bother me with the mess. People mad because I'm speaking up for myself. After 50-some years. After 49, 50-some years of being attacked by people, bullied by people, isolated by people, lied on. I've been lied on, cheated, talked about, mistreated. I've been buked and scorned, talked about like I shouldn't have been born. Up, down, almost level to the ground. All of that. And now that I stick up for myself and speak up for myself against all your fucking lies, then you motherfuckers want, and all of the spiritual attacks and all of that shit, then you want to bother me and harass me and be mad. I can't even go to the motherfucking gym. The goddamn Planet fucking Fitness. Without motherfuckers looking at me, gawking. Motherfuckers I ain't never seen before. I can't even go in the goddamn Whole Foods without feeling somebody's nasty energy. A motherfucker I don't even know. Because of Niggerville. That I was thrown into. I can't even have my own personal fucking life. I walk away, motherfuckers is mad. You do your fucking dream infiltration. You do your fucking weird ass emails and your weird ass texts. You have crazy people like that bitch over there involved. Because he gonna pay her. And she's still over there. Copying the shit that I say. Except I don't say that dirty ass low down shit and delicious, ain't it, for the celebrity lick of vagina and all of that kind of stuff all online and shit. You talk about people calling everybody pigs. She the only pig. Same color as a fucking pig. Then you're fucking mad. I got motherfuckers coming to me, being sent by people, pretending they want the service that I offer, so they can see what I do and siphon that shit and try to steal that shit or try to give me bad reviews and all of that type of shit. And you're mad because I speak up for myself and tell you to leave me the fuck alone. Bitch, you keep your fucking weird ass energy. Your self-deception. I just keep hearing you're rot. I don't know. You're just rotten. I'm saying that it'd been plenty of days. I knew you sent that shit over here. This way. Whatever it was. Because it don't ring true with me and never has. Keep that shit, bitch. Do not call me. Anybody else. You want to bother me because you working for pissies in them. And he just got to take me down. Rawr, and all that shit like you did in the dream the other night. Don't call me. Do not text me. Do not email. Don't fucking stop harassing me and stalking me. How's that? If you was somebody who listened to that bullshit, whatever their fucking lies were, and you say, oh, that shit wasn't true. I didn't even know the bitch. I was listening to him because dick always gonna win out over a bitch. Feel bad about the shit. Then just hold on to your feeling bad about it. Don't bother me. Because you liked it. But anyway, that was a nice lesson on projection. I didn't mean to read all that. Bitch, don't bother me, bitch. Keep all your fucking low down, fucking weird ass, demented ass, whatever it is, about how you feel about your fucking self. And for everyone else, I'm gonna do the readings. Okay. You all have favor. Peace.